Nora does not remember the crash. She remembers sound. Glass shattering like someone dropped a chandelier. Metal screaming. Then nothing. When you open your eyes after almost dying, you do not expect soft light or fresh sheets. You expect chaos. Sirens. Pain. Instead, Nora Bennett wakes up to the quiet hiss of oxygen and the steady beep of a heart monitor. Her throat burns, every muscle aches, and for a second she is sure she is still dreaming. Then she feels a weight around her fingers. Warm. Steady. Human. She turns her head. There he is. A man in dark blue scrubs under a tailored white coat, blonde hair perfectly in place, a faint shadow along his jaw like he has not slept in days. His eyes are the first thing that really land. Calm, honey brown, focused entirely on her, as if the entire world has shrunk down to this bed. Hey, he says softly. You made it. Later, she will realize that is the first moment she falls in love with him, before she even knows his name. Right now, she just blinks. Her tongue feels like cotton. Where? He leans closer. Westbridge Medical Center. I am Dr. Adrian Hale. You had a pretty bad night, Nora. But you are safe now, okay? Westbridge. She has heard that name on the news, in stories about medical breakthroughs and billionaire philanthropists. The Hale family owns half the building, if gossip is true. So of course the doctor who saved her life has cheekbones like a movie star and the kind of confidence money buys. Of course. She tries to nod. Pain zings down her neck and she winces. His brows pull together immediately. Easy. Do not push it. You were in a rollover accident on the FDR. Concussion, internal bleeding, a ruptured spleen. We operated for 4 hours. You flatlined once. His voice is matter of fact, but the muscle in his jaw tightens on that last line. You scared all of us. You. All of us. They should be just words, but to someone who has not had a real us in a long time, they sink deep. Her mind swims. Flashes of memory punch through the fog. Her mother's hand slipping from hers as the car spun. The world turning upside down. The silence that followed. My mom, she croaks. It hurts to speak. Was someone? The fact that Adrian's eyes flicker before he answers tells her everything. I am so sorry, Nora, he says quietly. She did not make it. The heart monitor beeps faster. Air turns thick. For a second she thinks she is dying again, but this time it is not her body, it is everything else. Her last family. Her last safety net. Gone. Tears crowd her eyes, hot and shocking. Adrian does not reach to wipe them away. He just tightens his hand around hers, grounding her. Breathe with me, he murmurs. In and out. That is it. Stay with me. So she does. Because what else is there to hold on to right now except the man who pulled her back from the dark? Minutes pass, or hours, she cannot tell. The pain meds drag at her, pulling her towards sleep, but she fights it. She does not want to close her eyes and risk never seeing him again. You should rest, Adrian says finally, voice gentler than any lullaby. You are stable, but your body needs time. Will you be here? The question slips out before she can catch it. It sounds too needy, too exposed, even to her own ears. He hesitates just a fraction of a second, then smiles, the kind of tired smile that looks like it does not come easily. I have other patients, he admits, and a lot of people who think they own my time. But I will check on you. Personally. I promise. That word lands like a blanket around her shoulders. Promise. You know how it is when you are hanging by a thread and someone you barely know offers you a bit of solid ground? Even if you do not believe in fairy tales, your heart reaches for it. Adrian checks her vitals one more time, scribbles something on the chart, and finally lets go of her hand. For a moment, Nora feels oddly cold, like someone opened a window. He is almost at the door when his phone buzzes in the pocket of his coat. He glances at the screen, and the softness in his face disappears, replaced by something tight, guarded. The monitor keeps beeping steadily while the rest of the room seems to freeze. He swipes the call away, but a banner notification flashes in the light. We are all set up at the chapel. The ceremony starts in 1 hour. Do not be late, Adrian. Her stomach drops. Chapel. Ceremony. She might be drugged, but not that drugged. She knows exactly what those words mean. A wedding. His wedding. He presses his lips together, shoves the phone back like it burned him, then turns around and finds her eyes on his. For a moment there is no doctor, no patient, no billionaire, no poor girl who just lost everything. Just a man and a woman in a room that suddenly feels too small for the truth hanging between them. Nora, he says quietly, there are some things about my life I should probably explain. You ever have a moment where your heart chooses a person in the same breath it learns it is already too late? That is exactly where Nora is lying when the screen in his pocket lights up again. And somewhere inside, something fragile in her begins to crack. If this story moves you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Your support is what keeps this channel alive. But right now, all Nora can think is one simple, impossible thought. I am falling for the doctor who saved my life, and I just woke up on his wedding day. The next time Nora wakes, daylight is sliding in thin bands through the blinds. The clock on the wall says 11:07 a.m., but her body has no idea what day it is. Grief hits first, fast and mean, like a punch to the ribs. Her mother is still gone. That part was not a nightmare. Her eyes sting, but there is something else layered under the grief now. A hollow, painful awareness of the man who stood at her bedside and said the word promise, while a wedding countdown ticked in his pocket. You know that sick twist in your stomach when your heart picks the most impossible person in the room? That is the flavor sitting on her tongue. A soft knock at the door makes her jump. A nurse in light gray scrubs wheels in a cart. Her badge reads Kayla. She has curly hair piled on top of her head and kind eyes that see more than Nora would like. Good morning, sunshine, Kayla says. How's our miracle girl? Miracle. Nora does not feel like one. Miracles do not come with medical bills and funerals. And a future scraped clean. Still, she manages, I've been better. Kayla smiles, checking the 4 line with practiced hands. Vitals look good. Pain level. Like I got into a fist fight with a truck and lost. That tracks, Kayla laughs. I'll let Dr. Hale know you're awake. He keeps asking. The last 3 words land heavier than they should. He does. Nora cannot help it. Kayla glances up, eyes sharp. Honey, the man practically lives on this floor lately. You must be special. Special. If only Kayla knew. If only Nora did not remember the word ceremony glaring from his phone like a neon sign. She swallows. Is he busy today? It is a stupid question. Of course he is busy. It is his wedding day. Kayla does not notice the war in Nora's eyes. He came off an overnight surgery a few hours ago, but he said to page him the second you were fully awake. Let me grab your breakfast, and I'll send him in. When the nurse disappears, Nora stares at the ceiling, trying to breathe around the knot in her chest. She does not want him to come. She wants him to come more than anything. A few minutes later, the door opens again. This time it is Adrian. He is not in scrubs now. He wears a navy suit that fits his shoulders too well, a crisp white shirt, no tie yet. The sight of him like that steals the air from her lungs more effectively than the pain did. This is not just the doctor who saved her life. This is the groom. Hey, he says softly, closing the door behind him with his foot. His eyes scan her face like he is taking inventory. You are more awake. How are you feeling? Like I lost a fight with gravity, she says, because jokes are easier than admitting she is breaking apart. And with whatever anesthetic you used on me. He huffs a tiny laugh, moving to the side of the bed. Up close, she can see the dark half-moons under his eyes. I did not do the anesthesia. I did, however, keep your insides where they belong. Do I get partial credit? I guess I owe you a thank you card. Her voice wobbles. He notices. Of course he does. You do not owe me anything, he says quietly. I was just doing my job. But it did not feel like just a job when his hand wrapped around hers in the dark. It does not feel like just a job now, with him standing here looking like a magazine ad for perfect husband. The thought makes her stomach twist. She stares at his suit instead of his eyes. Big day, she asks, forcing casual into her tone and missing. Silence stretches for a beat too long. Then he exhales slowly. You saw the notification. It is not a question. Kind of hard to miss, she says. Congratulations, I guess. The word feels like gravel in her mouth. Adrian's jaw flexes. He glances down at his own hands, like he is looking for an answer in them. Nora, this is complicated. You are getting married. That part sounds pretty straightforward. Bitterness slips out before she can shove it back. She wants to swallow it down, but it is too late. His eyes snap back to hers, searching. Do you remember anything from the night before surgery? The question throws her. She digs through the haze. Shards of memory poke through. His voice in the ER, steady in the chaos. Him sitting by her bed in pre-op, telling her what they were about to do, promising he would not let her go. His hand in hers when everything went black. "You talked to me," she whispers. "You stayed. You did not have to do that." Something flickers across his face. "No," he agrees softly. "I did not." That should be comforting. It only makes things worse. She looks away, blinking hard. "Listen, you do not have to explain anything to me. I am just your patient. You have a whole life outside this room, a fiancé, a hospital." He cuts in, a humorless smile tugging at one corner of his mouth. "Board members. Shareholders. A father who thinks feelings are a pre-existing condition." His gaze softens. "But you are not just anything, Nora." The way he says her name does something dangerous to her heartbeat. "You matter here. To me." It is the kind of line that would sound manipulative from someone else. From him, it sounds like a confession he has not allowed himself to make out loud. She swallows. "Then why are you marrying someone else today?" The question hangs, naked and raw. Adrian looks like she just pressed on a bruise. He opens his mouth, closes it, drags a hand over his face. "Because sometimes," he says slowly, "you make a choice so long ago, with so many other people's money and reputations tied to it, that backing out feels like surgery without anesthesia." She frowns. "That is not an answer." "I know." He looks at the clock, and she sees the strain tighten his features. "I have to scrub in for rounds, and then change." The word tastes like resignation. He reaches into his coat pocket and pulls out a small, navy blue notebook with a matching pen clipped to it. "This is for you," he says, setting it on the tray table. "Our occupational therapist says people who have been through trauma do better if they have a way to put their thoughts somewhere outside their own heads." It is a sketchbook, she realizes when she opens it. Thick, creamy pages. The pen is a rich blue, engraved with a tiny H at the base. Hale, his family's logo. "I heard you mention you used to doodle in the margins of your invoices," he adds, a faint smile ghosting over his mouth. "Figured we could upgrade you." Her chest tightens. He remembered that? "Thank you," she whispers. "You did not have to, I know." His fingers brush hers as he lets go of the notebook. The contact is brief and almost accidental, but it charges the air anyway. "I will come back," he says, backing toward the door. "After everything. After the wedding." She finishes for him. There is no point pretending that word is not standing between them. His expression shifts, something like pain and determination twined together. "After I figure out how to stop doing the wrong thing just because it is easier than blowing up the old plans." Then he is gone, the door clicking shut so gently it barely makes a sound. When you are lying in a hospital gown, hooked up to machines, and the man who saved you leaves to go put on a ring for someone else, the room gets very small, very fast. Nora looks down at the empty pages and the expensive pen with his family's initial gleaming on it. She has lost her mother, her past, her sense of safety. She has no idea how she will pay for any of this. But as she drags the pen across the first blank page, a shaky line turning into the outline of his profile, one terrifying truth settles in. She is not just fighting to stay alive anymore. She is fighting not to fall in love with a man who is walking down the aisle without her. Days blur into one another in hospitals. Lights never really go off. Time melts into rounds and meds and beeping monitors. For Nora, there are now 2 time zones, before Adrian's wedding and after. Before, she let herself watch him when he came in, memorized the way his mouth tilted when Kayla made a bad joke, the way his hand always warmed the cold spot on her wrist where the foretape pulled. After, she tries not to look at him at all. It is easier to stare at the sketchbook instead. You know how it is when you are trying not to think about someone, and their name scribbles itself in the margins of everything anyway. Yeah, that is what her brain is doing with Adrian Hale. The morning after the supposed ceremony, he walks in without the suit, back in scrubs, white coat open. There is no ring on his finger. That should not matter. It does. "How's the pain today?" he asks in his usual clinical tone, but his eyes flick to the sketchbook on her lap, like he already knows it is full of him. "Manageable," she says. "How's the married life?" The question slips out more sharply than she intended. If she cannot look away, she can at least remind herself where the lines are. Something visibly shudders in his expression. "Complicated," he says again. No elaboration. No details. He checks her incision, her reflexes, her labs. Every touch is professional. Every silence is not. When he leaves, Nora flips to a fresh page and draws a chapel door half open, light spilling out, a silhouette walking away. She tells herself it is none of her business. But the universe is cruel and loves irony. Because that afternoon, when Kayla wheels her down for a follow-up CT scan, they pass a bulletin board in the staff hallway. Pinned front and center is a glossy poster. A photo of Adrian in a tailored suit, standing beside a stunning brunette with sharp cheekbones and an easy, camera-ready smile. Congratulations to Dr. Adrian Hale and Dr. Celeste Morgan, the banner reads. Celebrating the union of Westbridge Surgical and Morgan Cardio. The words under the headline punch harder than the photo. Union. Not just of people, but of departments, money, influence. A merger in white. Kayla notices Nora staring and winces. Damn, they already put that up? Admin moves fast. You know her? Nora asks, even though her throat has gone dry. Celeste? Oh yeah, Kayla says. Cardio star. Press loves her. Her father is on the board of the Morgan Foundation. Rumor is this wedding is like a royal merger. Two dynasties, one ridiculously pretty power couple. She laughs, not seeing the way Nora's fingers tighten on the wheelchair armrests. Why? No reason, Nora lies. The image of them together will not leave her. Adrian's hand lightly on Celeste's back. Celeste's smile dazzling, effortless. They look like they were made in the same lab. Meanwhile, Nora is the girl in the hospital gown who almost died in a car she could barely afford. Back in her room, she cannot stop replaying every small kindness, every prolonged glance. Maybe she imagined it. Maybe this is just what charm looks like when someone was born into money and medicine. That night, when Adrian comes by, she tells him she wants to schedule an early discharge. His eyes widen. You are not ready, he says. Your hemoglobin is barely. I will follow up outpatient, she cuts in. You said yourself my numbers are improving. I can heal at home. Do you even have a home to go to? The question is out before he catches it. He looks instantly guilty. Still, it lands where it hurts. I will figure it out, she says tightly. My mom's apartment is gone, but there are shelters, sublets, whatever. His jaw clenches. You should not be worrying about housing 4 days after major surgery. Well, I am, she snaps. And about bills. And about the fact that the only person who has been here for me has a whole other life that does not include a broken girl in room 1203. There it is. Naked. Adrian flinches like she slapped him. Nora. I saw the poster, she says, because she is too tired to pretend she did not. You and Dr. Morgan. The hospital is very excited. A faint, bitter smile ghosts across his face. The hospital is excited, he echoes. And you? She asks before she can stop herself. Are you excited? He looks at her for a long moment, something fierce and vulnerable wrestling behind his eyes. I am resigned, he admits. But excitement is not the word I would use. It should make her feel better. It does not. It makes her chest ache worse. Either way, she says quietly, I should not be in the middle of it. His shoulders drop. He looks suddenly older than his 32 years. You are not in the middle, he says. You are collateral, she offers, half a joke, half truth. He shakes his head, frustrated. You are the one person in this building who does not treat me like a stock price, he says. That is the problem I am not sure how to solve yet. She swallows hard. Then maybe the solution is I go home, and you marry your perfect match, and we both pretend this week never happened. The words taste like acid, but she forces them out. For a second, he looks like he might argue. Then he nods, slowly, like someone signing off on a surgery they hate, but know is necessary. If that is what you want, he says. What I want stopped mattering when my mother died, she replies. This is about survival now. He writes the discharge order with tight, angry strokes. When he hands her the clipboard to sign, their fingers brush again. This time, neither of them looks up. Sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing you can do. Other times, it is just the most painful way to stand still. As Nora signs her name under the discharge line, she has no idea that leaving this hospital will not sever the tie between her and Adrian Hale. It will only pull it taut enough to snap something else. Buick 8. 2 weeks after discharge, New York feels like a different planet. Out here there are no soft-voiced nurses, no monitors keeping rhythm for you, no billionaire doctor promising you are safe. There is just the city, loud, hungry, and different. Nora's stitches itch beneath her thrift store sweater as she stands in line at a community clinic pharmacy, clutching a prescription for pain meds she is not sure she can afford. The sketchbook rides in her backpack, heavier than its size should allow. She has been sleeping on a friend of a friend's couch in Queens, the kind of place where the paint peels and the radiators bang, but no one asks too many questions. Her mother's funeral was small and quick. Closed casket, a few co-workers from the diner, a priest who mispronounced their last name. Adrian did not come. She did not expect him to. Still, a tiny, irrational part of her watched the door of the cheap funeral home, waiting for a white coat that never appeared. That is how she knows she has to let this go. You cannot build a future on a week in a hospital bed. As she leaves the clinic, a sudden wave of dizziness hits. The sidewalk tilts. She grabs a lamppost, breathing shallow. "Easy there," a voice says behind her. A hand hovers near her elbow but does not touch without permission. "You okay?" She turns, ready to snap that she is fine, and the words die in her throat. Adrian Hale is standing on the sidewalk in a charcoal coat, scarf tucked neatly at his neck, hair ruffled by the wind for once instead of perfect. His eyes widen when he sees her face. "Nora." The city noise blurs. "What are you, Hal?" She stammers. He lifts both hands slightly, like approaching a skittish animal. "I am not stalking you, I swear," he says. "We have an outreach program with this clinic. I consult here twice a month." Of course he does. Of course his kingdom stretches out here too. "I am fine," she says quickly, straightening. The dizziness passes, leaving embarrassment in its wake. "Just stood up too fast." He studies her, doctor mode engaged. "Are you eating? Resting? You look pale." "Wow, thanks," she mutters. Just what every girl wants to hear from her. She stops herself before she says doctor, because that is not the word her heart tries to use. From the guy who saved her spleen. A flicker of amusement tugs at his mouth. "Technically, we took your spleen out," he reminds her. "So, I am more like the guy who removed the thing that was trying to kill you." "Semantics," she says, but a reluctant smile breaks through. For a moment, it is almost easy again. Then she sees the glint of metal on his left hand. A ring. Simple, platinum, unmistakable. Her chest tightens. "So you did it," she says, nodding at his hand. "Congratulations, Dr. Hale." He glances down like he had forgotten it. "Was there?" The wince is subtle but real. "Yeah," he says. "I did it." There is no joy in his voice. Just a flat, exhausted acceptance. "How is married life?" "Like being on call for a surgery I never wanted to scrub in for," he says before he can catch himself. He grimaces. "That was unprofessional." "I am not your board," she says quietly. "You can complain to me." His gaze softens. "I should not," he says. "You have enough weight on your chest." Wait. Bills. Grief. Feelings she does not have room for. "I am managing," she lies. "I have a line on a part-time design gig. Maybe some freelance illustration if my hands stop shaking long enough." He tips his head. "You draw?" "I doodle," she says, suddenly shy. "It is not a real job." "Says who?" he asks. "My landlord," she shoots back. He laughs, and the sound warms something in her that has been cold since the crash. "You still using that sketchbook?" he asks. The fact that he remembers makes her cheeks heat. "Maybe," she says. "I might have defaced a few pages with your face. Purely for medical research." His eyes flicker, darkening for a heartbeat. "I will try not to take offense," he says softly. "Listen, can we grab coffee? There is a place around the corner that does not taste like burnt regret." She hesitates. Every sensible cell in her body screams no. He is married. He is rich. He belongs to a world that will chew her up as an amusing anecdote and spit her out. But every lonely part of her, every bruised inch of her heart, remembers his hand around hers in the dark. "Just coffee," he says. "Doctor's orders. You look like you could use something that is not hospital food or instant noodles." In the end, it is not the doctor in him that makes her say yes. It is the man who looks genuinely relieved when she nods. The coffee shop is small, cramped, warm. They squeeze into a corner table. He orders for them without looking at the menu, like he already knows what she will like. He is right. Of course he is. As they talk, bits of his life peel back. He grew up in a house where money solved everything except loneliness. His father is a legend in surgery, but a ghost. At the dinner table, Celeste is brilliant, ambitious, a good person in her own way, but their engagement started as a business conversation, not a love story. You ever stay in something because it is the only script everyone else will accept? He asks quietly, staring into his cup. Every day, she says. Mine just happens to be poverty, not power. They both laugh, but there is an ache underneath. When they part ways outside, he hesitates like he wants to say more. You know this is a bad idea, right? Nora says, cutting to the chase. Whatever this is. Coffee. Talking. Being anything but doctor and former patient. Probably, he agrees. But some days, bad ideas are the only ones that feel like oxygen. He steps back, hands shoved in his coat pockets. Text me if you get dizzy again. Or if you just need someone to tell you that you are stronger than you think. She wants to say, you do not get to be that person anymore. You chose someone else. What comes out is, I do not have your number. He smiles faintly. I wrote it on the inside cover of your sketchbook the day you left, he says. You never looked? Later, on the rattling subway back to Queens, she flips open the navy notebook. On the inside cover, in neat, precise handwriting, are 10 digits and a line. In case the world gets too loud. Hey, you know those moments when you realize the door you thought you closed is still very much open? That is where Nora is, fingers hovering over the ink, pulse thrumming in her throat. Somewhere between a hospital bed and a cheap coffee shop, the line between survival and something dangerously like love has blurred. Back in Queens, the world forces Nora to keep moving, even when her ribs ache and her heart feels like a cracked plate. She takes short freelance work, small illustration gigs, logo sketches, anything she can do from a couch with a heating pad and cheap Wi-Fi. But even when she tries to drown her mind in deadlines, one truth hums beneath everything. She should not miss Adrian Hale. She should not replay the warmth in his voice at that coffee shop or how his eyes softened when she joked about doodling him. She should not be wondering whether he is happy with Celeste. But wanting and doing are two different battles, and she is losing both. One cold evening, rain slicing sideways across Roosevelt Avenue, she returns to the apartment building to find a sleek black car idling at the curb, too clean, too quiet to belong on this street. Her pulse stutters. The back door opens. Adrian climbs out. He is not in a suit this time. He wears a charcoal sweater, sleeves shoved up, hair tousled like he has been running his hands through it for hours. His eyes find her instantly. Relief floods his face. You are hard to track down, he says, stepping toward her with caution, as if she might disappear if he moves too fast. You should not be here, she says, hugging her thin jacket tighter. Her voice comes out sharper than she intends. People get mugged for wearing watches like yours on this block. Then I will take it off, he says, already unclasping it. She closes her eyes. That is not the point. Nora, he says quietly, I heard you missed your last follow-up appointment. She stiffens. How? Did you put a tracker in my for? No, he says, and for the first time that day, he almost smiles. Kayla told me. She was worried. So was I. She looks away. I could not afford the lift. The subway stairs still hurt. He exhales slowly, like he is swallowing 10 different emotions. You should have called me. You are married, she reminds him. I do not get to call married men. Something cracks in his expression. Right, he says softly. That part. Rain pools at their feet. Car horns blare somewhere far behind them. But in this moment the city feels strangely muted, like the world is holding its breath. Nora, can we talk somewhere that is not the middle of a storm? He asks. There is a diner half a block away. Booth in the back. No one will bother us. Us, she repeats. Dangerous word. But the rain is colder than her pride, and she is too exhausted to fight everything tonight. Fine. 10 minutes, she says. The diner is fluorescent and half empty, smelling of coffee and fried onions. They slide into a booth. She keeps her hands under the table so he will not see them tremble. I should not be here, she begins. You should not be here. You have a wife now, a life, a future that does not include me. I have a marriage license, he says quietly. That is not the same as a wife. She freezes. His eyes meet hers, steady, unflinching. It is complicated, he continues. That is the word you used, she snaps. Complicated can still be true and wrong. Celeste and I, we agreed to something years ago, before I met you, before I learned that choices made to protect other people can become cages. His voice lowers. And before I found myself thinking about a patient long after she left my floor. Her throat tightens. Do not say that. Why, he asks. Because it is true? Because it makes things harder, she whispers. For both of us. He studies her face like he is memorizing each line. Then tell me to leave, he murmurs. Tell me to get back in that car and go home to the life everyone expects me to live. Tell me you feel nothing, Nora. She opens her mouth. No words come out. Because she cannot lie. Not about this. His hand inches across the table, not touching hers, just close enough to feel the warmth radiating between them. I cannot break vows I did not make with my heart, he says. And I cannot ignore what is happening here. Her pulse hammers. Adrian, I am not asking for anything from you, he says. Not a relationship. Not a promise. Just honesty. Are you feeling any of this too? It is the gentlest question she has ever been asked. And the most dangerous. Her voice shakes when she finally answers. Yes, she breathes. But that does not mean it is right. His shoulders slump, not in defeat, but in acceptance. Then let me make it right, he says. Whatever it takes. She looks into his eyes and sees a man unraveling his own life, thread by thread. A man who has been living inside expectations that do not fit anymore. A man who might burn his world down for her if she lets him. And that terrifies her more than the crash ever did. Because falling in love by accident is one thing. Being loved back by someone you cannot have. That is the kind of pain you carry forever. For 3 days after the diner conversation, Nora tries to disappear. She avoids the clinic, avoids his texts, which come only once a day, short, careful messages like, how are you feeling today? And did you eat? And please let me know you are okay. She hates how her heart jumps every time her phone buzzes. She hates that part of her waits for his name to light up the screen. And she hates most of all that she cannot bring herself to block him. On the 4th morning, she wakes up dizzy and sweating. Her incision aches, a hot, insistent pulse under her ribs, the kind that whispers infection. She tries to sit up. The room tilts. Her breath catches. Not now, she mutters, gripping the couch cushion. Please, not now. But pain is indifferent. It takes what it wants. By noon she is shaking hard enough that the pen falls from her hand, clattering onto the sketchbook. She stares at it, vision swimming. The number Adrian wrote inside the cover blurs. She could call an Uber to the ER. Except she cannot afford an Uber. Or the ER. Or another bill that will crush whatever pieces of her life are still standing. A tear slides down her cheek. Not from pain, but from the humiliation of it all. Being poor is one thing. Being sick and poor is another. Being in love with a man she cannot have while being sick and poor feels like the universe is playing a joke she is too tired to laugh at. She flips the notebook open with trembling fingers. The number stares back. Do not, she whispers to herself. Do not drag him into this again. Her hand moves anyway. The phone rings once. Twice. Nora. His voice is alarmed, immediate. She tries to answer, but all that comes out is a small, broken sound. Where are you? He asks sharply. Tell me. Right now. She gives him the address before she can talk herself out of it. 14 minutes later, she counts every one. The buzzer for the apartment door blares. She barely gets it unlocked before he is climbing the stairs 2 at a time, breathless, hair damp from rain. When he sees her, the fury in his face melts instantly into fear. Jesus, Nora, he murmurs, kneeling in front of her. You are burning up. I did not want to call, she whispers. I did not know what else to do. You call me, he says fiercely. Always. I do. Not care what time it is, or what day, or what anyone thinks I should be doing instead. He lifts her gently, one arm behind her back, the other under her knees. She winces at the movement, and he mutters an apology like a prayer. We are going to the hospital, he says. No, she gasps. No more bills. I cannot. I am your doctor, he interrupts, voice low and steady. And I am telling you this is not optional. She should argue. Fight. Protect whatever scraps of dignity she has left. But when he holds her like that, secure, anchored, like she is something precious instead of a burden, her defenses crumble. At Westbridge, he bypasses the front desk with the authority of someone who has lived his entire life inside these walls. Nurses move aside when they see him carrying her. He lays her gently on a bed in a private room and immediately starts barking orders. CBC, CMP, cultures, for fluids, broad-spectrum antibiotics, now. They snap into action. The speed is terrifying and comforting all at once. Kayla rushes in and her eyes widen. Oh honey, you should have come sooner. Nora wants to answer, but the room feels far away. Adrian stays glued to her side, one hand around hers, thumb brushing the side of her palm every time she winces. You are going to be okay, he whispers. I have you. Hours blur. Tests. Monitors. Needles. The fever burns through her like wildfire, dragging nightmares behind it. Her mother's voice, the crash, the chapel poster, Adrian walking away from her wedding dress and unreachable. She wakes sometime after midnight to find him still in the same chair, still holding her hand, still looking like hell. His suit jacket is gone, sleeves rolled up, tie stuffed in his pocket, hair a mess from running his hands through it. He looks nothing like the polished man on the poster. He looks human and exhausted, and hers in a way he should not be. You stayed, she croaks. Of course I stayed, he says, and there is no hesitation, no guardedness, no shield. Just truth. She licks her dry lips. Celeste will be looking for you. He goes still. He looks down at her hand in his. Celeste moved out, he says quietly. The words slide into the air like a confession. What? He exhales, long and slow. She said she felt like she was marrying a ghost. Someone who kept showing up for duty, but not for her. Someone whose heart was someplace else. His eyes lift to hers, dark and unwavering. She was right. The fever in her body feels suddenly insignificant compared to the heat rising in her chest. Adrian, I am not telling you this to pressure you, he says. You owe me nothing. But I am done lying to myself. And I am done letting other people chart my life for me. His thumb grazes her knuckles. You asked me once why I was marrying someone else. He leans closer. The truth is, I made that choice before I met you. Before I knew what it felt like to want something for myself. Her heartbeat stutters. What do you want now? His voice is barely above a whisper. You. The word settles in the air between them. Dangerous, fragile, sacred. And for the first time since the crash, Nora lets herself believe that maybe, just maybe, the thing she wants most might not be impossible after all. Recovery is not linear, and neither is falling in love with someone you keep telling yourself you should not want. Nora learns this the hard way over the next 2 days as the fever breaks, returns, then finally loosens its grip. Adrian barely leaves the room. Nurses whisper about it, some trying to hide their smiles, others pretending not to notice the way he watches Nora, as if the monitors are secondary and her breathing is the real vital sign. She wakes from shallow sleep to find him adjusting her blanket. She drifts off again and wakes to see him reading the sketchbook she left open, his expression softening at each drawing. Her mother's hands, the crash's broken glass, his profile in the blue pen he gave her. You draw like someone who sees the world too clearly. He murmurs when he realizes she is awake. That is not always a blessing. Neither is loving someone who is supposed to be off limits. She whispers before she can stop herself. His eyes close for a moment, like the words physically hit him. Nora, I know, she says quickly. I know. You said I do not owe you anything. You said you are not asking for anything. But feelings do not wait for permission, Adrian. They do not care about rings or contracts or reputations. He sits back, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. It is the posture of a man who has made a choice and is now bracing for impact. Celeste signed the annulment papers, he says quietly. It will take a few weeks to finalize, but it is done. The room seems to tilt. Why? She whispers. His eyes lift to hers. Because she realized what I refused to admit, that I am not the man she thought I was. Not the man my father groomed me to be. Not the spotless golden surgeon willing to live his life according to a plan designed by people who never once asked what I wanted. He exhales. And because she saw the way I looked at you. Nora feels her pulse in every part of her body. I never wanted to break anything in your life, she says. You did not, he replies. It was already cracked. You just showed me the light coming through. A nurse interrupts before she can respond. Dr. Hale, you need rest, Kayla scolds. You have been awake for 30 hours. I am fine, he says. You are a cardiothoracic surgeon, she fires back. You know better. Nora gives him a look. She is right. Traitor, he mutters, but he stands anyway. As he steps into the hall, Nora hears Kayla whisper sharply. Adrian, this is getting too obvious. People are talking. Silence. Then Adrian's voice, low, steady. Let them. Her heart flips. She should not feel this way. She is the girl who can barely pay for groceries. He is the man whose family name is etched into half the labs in this building. A future with him feels like a fairy tale, and fairy tales always have a cost. That night, she cannot sleep. She stares at the ceiling, at the blue pen glinting faintly on the tray table. She flips to a blank page and draws the outline of a heart, cracked down the middle, stitched back together. She does not know whose heart it is. Maybe both of theirs. A knock breaks the quiet. Adrian steps inside, not in scrubs this time, but in a dark hoodie, hair damp from a shower, eyes still exhausted. "I thought Kayla sent you home," she says. "She did," he replies. "I came back." "Why?" He closes the door behind him. "Because I cannot sleep knowing you are in here alone." Her breath catches. He moves to the chair beside her bed, but does not sit. Instead, he stands close enough that she can hear the unsteady rhythm of his breathing. "Nora, I need you to understand something," he says. "What is happening between us? It is not a distraction. It is not some crisis-born attachment. I have been alone for a long time. Not physically. People fill my orbit constantly. But emotionally, I cannot remember the last time someone looked at me the way you do. Like you see the man, not the machine." She swallows hard. "I do see you. I know," he whispers. "That is why I am here." He finally sits, the chair creaking under his weight. "When you left the hospital, it felt like something in my chest was ripping open. I have never walked out of it or bleeding, but I imagine it would feel similar." His voice cracks. "I am terrified, Nora. Not of loving you, of hurting you, of dragging you into a life so heavy you cannot breathe." She reaches for his hand. It is the first time she initiates the touch, and the way he reacts, sharp inhale, eyes closing for a second, is enough to send heat through her entire body. "You are not dragging me anywhere," she says. "I choose what I walk into, even if it comes with consequences. Especially then." He turns his hand over, palm up, fingers curling around hers. It feels like a vow, silent and enormous. The monitor beeps softly beside them, the only witness to the shift in the room. "Nora," he says, barely audible. "Tell me not to fall for you, and I will try. I will fail, but I will try." Her voice trembles. "I am not going to tell you that." He leans forward until his forehead rests against the back of her hand. Vulnerable, unshielded. "Then God help me," he breathes. "Because I am already gone." In the days that follow, whispers ripple through Westbridge like a current under polished marble floors. Nurses glance at each other when Adrian walks into Nora's room. Residents straighten their posture, pretending not to stare. Even administrators, those sleek, sharp-eyed creatures who smell like policy meetings and old money, pause mid-stride when they see him sitting at her bedside long after rounds should be over. Nora hates it. Not him, the scrutiny, the imbalance, the judgment she can feel, even behind closed doors. But Adrian? He seems relieved, like he has finally stopped hiding a truth too heavy to carry alone. One evening, as the city hums below the hospital windows and the sky bleeds pink into deep purple, he wheels Nora out onto a quiet terrace garden reserved for long-term patients. Fairy lights glow along the railing, and the air tastes like fresh rain. She breathes it in like it is the first clean air she has had in months. "Better out here?" he asks. "Much." He sits beside her, elbows resting on his knees. For a moment, they simply watch the skyline. "You know," she says softly, "I am starting to feel guilty." "About what?" he asks. "All the time you spend with me. The rumors. Your reputation. Your career. Everything your family expects." Adrian gives a low laugh, not unkind, just quietly honest. "Nora, I grew up in a world where decisions were made with calculators, not hearts. My father picked my college before I learned how to shave. My residency was decided before I even took the MCAT. My engagement was negotiated like a business deal." He looks at her then, eyes warm but burning with something earnest. "You are the first choice I have ever made for myself." Her breath catches. "Adrian, I am not saying that to pressure you," he adds. "It is just the truth. You should know it." She looks back at the skyline, afraid the intensity in his eyes might undo her completely. "What about Celeste?" she asks finally. He sighs. "Celeste is brilliant. Kind. She will find someone who looks at her the way she deserves. Someone whose life lines up with hers. We both knew long before the annulment that we were fitting ourselves into a mold we no longer recognized." "Does your father know?" she asks. The humor drains from his expression. He will. Eventually. He will not like it. He does not have to. His tone is gentle, but resolute, carved from steel rather than anger. Nora presses her fingers together. I don't want to be the reason your family falls apart. You will not be, he says. If anything breaks, it will be because the structure was already wrong. You did not build it. She is quiet for a long time, listening to the hum of cars far below. People will talk, she whispers. Let them. He mirrors her earlier thought. Something eases inside her. Not fully. Fear still coils in her ribs, but enough that she can breathe. He turns slightly toward her. There is something I want to show you, he says. But you have to promise not to panic. That is a terrible way to start, she replies. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a folded document. She tenses. Is that your bill? He finishes for her. Her stomach drops. Adrian, it is 0, he says gently. Paid. Completely. She freezes. You should not have. I should, he interrupts softly. And I did. And before you ask, it has nothing to do with us. I paid it before anything happened. Her throat tightens with something like shame and gratitude tangled together. I cannot repay you, she whispers. Good, he says. Because this is not transactional. She wants to cry. She does not. She forces herself upright, ignoring the pull of stitches. Adrian, I need you to understand something too, she says. I am not with you because you saved my life, or because you paid something I could not, or because I think I owe you a future. Her eyes lock onto his. I am with you because you make me feel seen, and safe, and terrified, and alive, all at the same time. His breath stutters. She reaches for his hand. For the first time, he lets her guide the space between them. She threads her fingers through his gently, careful not to hurt him even though he is the one who has been holding her this whole time. Nora, he murmurs, leaning closer. I do not want to rush anything. You are healing. We are both figuring out our lives. But if you let me, I want to walk all of that with you. The terrace lights flicker as a breeze sweeps across the rooftop garden. It lifts a strand of her hair, brushing it against his cheek. They do not kiss, not yet, but they lean close enough that the space between them feels like a promise forming. I am scared, she whispers. Me too, he admits. Doesn't mean we are wrong. And for the first time, Nora lets herself imagine a version of her tomorrow that does not feel like borrowed time, but something she might actually deserve. The next morning, the hospital feels different. Calmer. Brighter. Or maybe it is just Nora. Fever gone. Pain manageable. Stitches healing. Her body finally feels like something she can live inside again instead of a battlefield. Adrian arrives early, still in scrubs, hair damp from the shower, coffee in one hand, and a small paper bag in the other. Breakfast, he says. Real breakfast. Not whatever the cafeteria calls food. She lifts an eyebrow. Are you bribing me? Absolutely, he replies. I am not above emotional manipulation when pastries are involved. She laughs, and the sound seems to knock the tension out of the room. They eat together quietly. Not awkward silence. Something warm, comfortable, like they have been doing this for years. He watches her closely. You look better today, he says softly. You look tired, she counters. I am, he admits. But it is a good tired. Is that a thing? Apparently. After breakfast, he wheels her down to physical therapy. She tries to argue that she can walk, but he does not budge. You will walk, he says, after you do not pass out on the way there. She rolls her eyes, but secretly feels safer than she has in months. The therapist gives her gentle exercises, light stretches, stability movements. Adrian sits through all of it, arms crossed, but his eyes soften every time she winces. When she manages a full standing stretch, he claps once, loud, delighted, unfiltered. Do not patronize me, she says, flushing. I am not, he says. I am genuinely impressed. She shakes her head, but her cheeks warm anyway. On the way back to her room, she catches him looking at her with an expression she cannot quite name. Hope, maybe, or wonder, or a man realizing his life is already shifting around someone he did not expect. Later that afternoon, an administrator knocks on the door, a tall man in a gray suit with a smile as thin as printer paper. Dr. Hale, he says, a word. Adrian steps outside. The door closes. Nora's stomach knots instantly. She can almost hear the conversation even without hearing it. You are a Hale. You cannot be seen like this. You cannot risk scandal. You cannot throw away your future for a girl with no money and no pedigree. Minutes pass. Too many. When Adrian finally returns, his jaw is tight, but his eyes burn with something fierce. Everything okay? She asks. He sits down slowly. They are concerned, he says. About optics. Optics, she repeats. As in me. As in us, he corrects. The word sends a tremor through her chest. I do not want to be the reason you lose everything, she whispers. He takes her hand. Nora, I walked into that meeting prepared to fight. What I did not expect was realizing I do not actually care what they threaten me with. Her breath catches. Adrian, I meant what I said, he cuts in. I am choosing my own life for the first time. And I am choosing it with you in it. A soft knock interrupts them. Celeste stands in the doorway. She is beautiful even in exhaustion, lab coat draped over her arm, dark hair pulled into a neat bun. But her expression is not the cold poise of a wounded bride. It is something gentler. Sad. Human. Can I come in? She asks quietly. Adrian tenses. Nora nods. Celeste steps inside and looks at Nora, not with resentment, but with a kind of understanding that makes Nora's throat tighten. I owe you an apology, Celeste says. For the pressure, the contract, the merger, all of it. I let myself believe I could force a life that was already falling apart. Nora swallows. You do not owe me anything. Maybe not, Celeste says, but I want to say this anyway. He was gone long before you. Not from me. Just from the version of our life we tried to pretend still existed. She turns to Adrian. Do not let fear ruin this. Then she leaves. Adrian stares at the door long after it closes. Nora squeezes his hand gently. She is right, she whispers. Fear is not a reason to stop. He looks at her, eyes bright with emotion. Then let me take the next step, he murmurs. Let me show you I am not going anywhere. And for the first time, Nora believes him. Discharge day arrives with sunlight streaking across the floor like a blessing. Nora moves gingerly but steadily, dressed in jeans that hang a bit loose on her and a soft sweater Adrian insisted on buying because, as he put it, you cannot heal if you are freezing. She pretends to be annoyed. She is not. Adrian appears at her door holding a clipboard and a nervous smile. Ready? He asks. She nods, though her heart is punching at her ribs. Leaving the hospital suddenly feels like stepping off a cliff. Where am I even going? She asks, half joking, half terrified. Wherever you want, he says. But if you will let me, I would like to take you home. Your home? She asks. He shakes his head. Our starting point. Neutral territory. No expectations. No pressure. He offers his hand. She hesitates only a second before taking it. Outside, the world is loud and bright, cabs honking, people rushing, New York refusing to slow down for anyone. But somehow, standing beside him, it feels less overwhelming. He drives her to a quiet neighborhood near the river, tree-lined streets, calm sidewalks, sunlight glinting off water in the distance. He parks in front of a small brick townhouse. Not a mansion, not a penthouse, just human. You live here? She asks, surprised. My apartment is uptown, he says. This is my grandmother's old place. I come here when I need to remember who I am without the hospital. He opens the door, guiding her inside. The living room smells faintly of old books and vanilla. There are photos on the walls, childhood pictures, messy holiday gatherings, a young Adrian with braces and a disastrous haircut. Oh wow, she says, pointing. This is priceless. He groans. Please do not judge me by 2005. She laughs, really laughs, for the first time in months. He watches her with a look that could undo her if she lets it. They sit on the couch. Close. Too close. Just close enough. Nora, he says quietly, I know everything is fragile right now. Your life is rebuilding. Mine is adjusting. We do not have to define anything today. She looks at him. Really looks. A man who saved her life. A man who almost lost himself. A man choosing, maybe for the first time, something real. I do not need a definition, she says softly. I just need honesty. He nods once, slow, deliberate. Then here is my honesty, he whispers. You are the first person I have wanted in years. Not as an obligation or a responsibility, but as a choice. My choice. Her breath shudders. She reaches for her sketchbook, flipping to the page she drew long ago, the cracked hearts stitched back together. She turns the book so he can see it. This was me, she says. Before. She flips to a new page. Blank. Waiting. She hands him the pen. Do you want to help me fill this one? Adrian takes the pen like it is the most fragile object in the world. Only if you will let me stay, he says. Not as your doctor. Not as someone fixing you. Just as the man who's been falling for you since the moment you opened your eyes. She exhales a laugh that turns into something softer. Then stay, she whispers. He leans in, slowly, giving her every chance to pull back. She doesn't. Their foreheads touch first, then their noses. Then finally, their lips. It is not a dramatic kiss. Not desperate. Not rushed. It is gentle. Reverent. A beginning. When they pull apart, he rests his hand over hers on the blank page. Ready, he asks. For what? For the rest of the story. And for the first time since the crash, since the grief, since the fear, Nora feels the future open, wide and bright and real. Yeah, she whispers. Let's write it.